Hello and welcome to the Sunnyview Schools podcast made by students for students. I'm Albert and Elsa. I'll be your host for today. And with me, as usual, is a lot of beautiful people. Well, actually, not so many today. But let's do the rounds. Starting with...
my name's Elsa, and today I'm taking the place of Mr. McKean, who's usually here to lead the conversation, but he couldn't be here today, so I decided to step in and give it a go. I am a Year 13 prefect.
My name's Emily. I'm in Year 12.
I'm Hiya. I'm in Year 13. Sorry, forgot.
Right, so as Elsa says, Mr. McKean is not here today because today is not Monday. Today is Wednesday. We normally hold this podcast on a Monday. Mr. McKean is in class, so he can't join us today. Unfortunately, we can't live without Mr. McKean, right?
Yeah.
So today we have... what are we talking about? We practically don't even know.
Yeah, the topic today is, seeing as we have the exam season quickly approaching, we thought that it might be good to have a conversation about exams, balancing exams with your personal life, and just kind of discussing that for ourselves and for our audience, so we can hopefully all learn something from it. Or just go over stuff we already know, but always good to touch up on it.
Yes.
So, I just want to start by asking you guys, we can all share what subjects we take, just in case our listeners find that interesting.
Okay. So I do English, literature, economics, business, and French.
Very similar. I do English, literature, economics, and psychology.
And I do English, lit, drama, and biology. Cool. And so how are you guys feeling about the upcoming weeks?
Reality's kind of becoming real now. I was procrastinating a bit before, and then now because I have my first exam next week, because I have an oral for my French, so it's kind of becoming like, I need to lock in really, I need to start, and it's 3 weeks away, so now it's going. I'm a bit stressed, but that always happens when exams are approaching.
Yeah, now it's when it becomes real. We were in biology, and our biology teacher, he was like, only 2 more weeks left till study leave. How about you, Hiya?
I think that, I started studying a lot earlier, so I feel like I've divided it pretty well, and the pre-exam period is always nostalgic for me, and for some reason I enjoy it, being able to have the independent study. It kind of feels like I'm at university. I get my own time, make my own schedule. But what's kind of affecting me the most is the fact that these last 2 weeks are our last weeks of school in general. So I think that's a bit more where my mind's set right now.
Yeah, just to clarify for listeners, Emily's in Year 12, so Emily has 1 more year left. Year 13 next year, but he and I are both in Year 13, so we're leaving Sunnyview after the end of this year. So yeah, we only have 2 more weeks left of proper school, of proper high school. That's crazy. And for you guys, why is finding a balance important in that sense? So a balance of, your personal and academic life, especially during the exam season.
I feel like I get bored very quickly. So if I was just doing one thing for too long, then I'm not going to want to do that thing too much. It's a bit like when you eat too much of one food, you get sick of it, and then you can't do it again for a month or something. And I feel like that's the same with me for studying. If I do it too much for too long, then I get sick of it, and then I just lose all my motivation. So having a balance is really important so that I don't lose my motivation. I can keep going.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like if I have a schedule set, balance, I'll spend this much time with my family and then my friends, and I'll study for this amount of time, give myself some rest. I have something that I'm switching in between, and that gives me a little bit more balance, and I feel less stuck onto one subject for too long.
Do you guys find it hard though to look for that balance, or does it kind of happen naturally?
I have to plan, otherwise it does not come naturally. Otherwise I get carried away with one thing or another, usually with sport or something more fun than studying. So I do have to plan, maybe on the Sunday I'll plan for the week, or I'll plan every night for the night for the next day. Otherwise I get carried away and I don't balance it very well.
Yeah, same goes for me. I think, but I do really enjoy the planning and making schedules, that time is really fun for me because I get to see what I want to do when.
True. And
when I stick to it, I feel a bit more accomplished than I would if I just naturally let it flow.
Yeah, I think it's definitely rewarding when you can stick to your plan in that way.
Yeah.
And what kind of things are you guys trying to balance in your personal life with academics? What are things that you guys try to prioritize and make sure you keep doing?
Well, the main thing I prioritize is probably sport, because I used to play, I still do play rugby, but I haven't been going to training for a while because of the exams, but I've still been doing a lot of, so like I go on runs, I walk my dog every day for an hour, so I have to schedule that in because that's one of my like chores, I guess you could say. And then but I can't sit still for very long, so I have to release my energy somehow. So I find myself doing a lot of exercise every single day, and I think that's what I prioritize most other than studying.
How do you feel that helps you though, the exercise specifically?
It's kind of like a re-energizer. It's supposed to like burn energy and make you tired, but for me it kind of, because studying makes me tired and exercise makes me like feel more awake, and then I sit back down and I feel accomplished, not only from doing the sport I timetabled in, but then also doing the study I timetabled in. And it's like sport's one of my favorite things, so it's just great to be able to do that as well as doing my studies, and it's also good for you, obviously, exercise.
So Emily, sorry to interrupt, you do all this before studying or after studying? Because obviously some people like releasing energy before to be more relaxed, more in the situation. For instance, I don't study anymore. I do study, but not like you guys. I prefer the opposite. I prefer to save my energy for what I have to study, and then afterwards, clear my head by walking the dogs, like you say, or doing some exercise when I have time. If I do the opposite, by the time I sit down, I'm ready to go to bed.
Well, I have like slots of time. So for example, in the morning I wake up at 6, and I try to do like a 10-minute workout or something quick in the morning as soon as I wake up, and then I do some studying before school now, only in exam season. I haven't been doing this all year or anything. And then I get home from school, and then I walk my dog every day at like between 5:30 and 6, but it's getting later progressively as the day get hotter. So before I walk her, I do some studying, and then I walk her, so it's kind of like clearing my head from that. And then I get home and I do a bit more, and then I eat dinner, so then that kind of is another little break. And then after dinner I study for a bit, and then at about 8:30 I go on a run with my dog because she's a bit overweight, so we need to go on runs with her now. And then I get back, and then the time after my run, because it's about 9 o'clock, then on my timetable it usually says study until like 10:30, but I usually am a bit tired at that point, so I do like kind of like more chill, so maybe just reviewing flashcards or not so much doing a lot of writing. So a bit of both.
And you stick to that schedule every day?
Yeah, the same. And then I just factor in like what studying I'm doing. So I just change around what study I'm doing, but the exercise timetable stays kind of the same. Wow. Except for the running, if that's like a half an hour slot. But like last night I showered, so I changed the running for the shower so that I didn't like add anything, or like, so I kind of exchange rather than like subtract and add things.
Right. And how old are you?
I'm 16.
You're 16. I tell you, when I was 16, I would never in a million years would have stuck to any kind of schedule like that. I'd say I have to do that one thing, and I might do it if it was important enough, but I would never say I'll wake up at 6, do this, do that, do that. I never had that presence of mind. Maybe because I never had the guidance. Life was different in those days, and we're left alone to devices, which leads me to a question I had for you guys is, do you get any guidance? Do you have any time management? Because time management is incredibly important when it comes to this kind of thing. Your everyday life, if you have a routine or if you have a certain things to do. Is it part of your schooling? Is it part of your school life? Is it something that you're expected to learn on your own by trial and error? And how do you come, if it is something you have to do on your own, how do you come to that conclusion? I'm going to manage my time, because you just explained to both of you, but they're very different approaches to time management. So how do you come to that point?
I think, well, for me, if my schedule is far too packed together, I'm gonna find that I don't want to do it at all. I'll just see, I have way too many things to do. I'll just procrastinate all of it for later. So that's why I make sure that I've got enough time in between as well, in case some activities go on too long, or if I want to take an extra break because I'm feeling too tired that day. So I think that it comes naturally depending on however you find it easiest to schedule your days, but I think that if I have some kind of leniency in there, it makes me want to do it a lot more, because I don't feel constrained by myself. I have a little bit more liberty.
And you, Emily, how'd you come to your time management?
it took a lot of training. So it happened mostly, so in my GCSEs, the school I went to before Sunnyview, because I joined this year, was very bad. No one cared about what grades they got. No one, like for example, a 5 was like a good grade in my old school, which is not impressive at all. But then here, everyone kind of strives for greatness. So when I got here, I was kind of surprised, like, oh, people are actually like motivated and they want to do their thing. So that kind of motivated me to force myself. And then I had to like train myself to get into a routine. For example, every morning, like before, I never used to make my bed, and then I force myself every morning to do it. And now if I don't do it, it like irks me. Like I can't not do it. It feels like I'm skipping, like brushing my hair or brushing my teeth. So for me, it's just kind of like getting into a routine and like forcing yourself. It takes a while for me to stick to one,
right.
But then it's a lot of trial and error as well. I think like I started the one I'm doing now probably like 2 weeks ago, and now it's getting progressively easier to follow and like manage to jump from one block to the other.
Wow. Very mature.
I think it, like Hiya says, it does kind of come naturally, and when you want to do a lot of things, then you have to be able to manage your time, and you know how it feels. It comes from experience too, because as you're growing up, you know how it feels when you don't manage your time properly, and then, you know, you have all the panic, you have all the craziness, and you don't want that to happen anymore. So you kind of learn from your own experience and from yourself. I don't think any of us have had anyone come and show us specifically how to do it. I know that Allison, for example, has offered herself up. She's the one who does the enrichment sessions with us. But
Allison being Allison Gilfillan, our what is it, careers advisor.
Yeah, careers advisor, and she helps us out with some more general school stuff like this, and maybe she'll give us a little talk about it, but no one's specifically coming and like showing us how to do it. I think it's something that you just naturally learn.
How about your teachers? Do you feel supported by your teachers in that sense? Do you feel, you have your subject teachers, but do you think you'd be able to approach them and say, you know, I find it really hard to concentrate when I'm at home. What can I do? Do you think they'd be open to that kind of conversation, or they would just tell you, just learn my subject, forget everything else?
What do you guys think?
I feel like with A-level, it's very much, it's like they'll teach you a lesson, and then after that, it's like your responsibility. But then as soon as you come to your teachers here, they're very willing to help you and like tell you or like schedule in something to talk to you. So as it's different from GCSE, whereas you kind of have to go to them because it's your responsibility now to learn. So I think,
right.
But I think that's better because I don't feel like so much pressure to do their subject or study just that one thing.
Okay, so speaking from GCSE, is there any run up to that? So are you just thrown to the wolves in year 12? So you start year 12 and they say, okay, after the GCSEs, now you're on your own. You have so many free periods. You're expected to do a lot of hours of self-study. Come back to us whenever you're ready. Or within the GCSE years, I know you get pre-warned, but you don't really listen to it because you're concentrated on your GCSEs. It happens every year. But is there a slight run-up to it that once you're in year 12, you think, that's why they were saying this, or not? Or you're just all GCSEs, or you can't even remember because that was so far in the past?
I found year 12 a lot more relieving than the GCSEs were. Because I think for me, if I've got a few subjects that I'm focusing on more in depth, it's a lot easier for me to concentrate rather than a ton of subjects, because the GCSEs, I hate it. I hated those. I hated them so much.
They are tough.
And what I heard more from previous students was that the jump from year 12 to year 13 is a lot bigger than the jump from GCSEs to year 12. And I definitely saw that this year. I think that definitely showed up for me.
I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but I feel like GCSE is not that different from A-levels in the sense that you're already doing, you know, you're following these courses from the board, from Pearson EdXL in our case. And so you're already kind of having to figure out how am I going to make sure that I do the work for the board? You're kind of already playing their game. It's not that your teacher is designing the course and you just need to do their exams and please them. So in that sense, I feel like it's not that different. But time management, I guess, would be with all the study periods. And in that sense, it is a jump because you have to take your own initiative to use your, study periods and your free time better.
I can't see how that's easy for everybody. Some people are probably really good, as you guys clearly are, at managing their own time. Some other people probably have different priorities or not. In your case, are you a student above all, and your priority is always your studies, or is that part of your time just as something else you have to do? And you're like, maybe, like in your case, you're more into sports. So sports is your priority, and then you have to get time to study. Or you're thinking, no, I'm a study. My job is to be a student. That's what I do, 7-8 hours a day, and this is what I have to do.
I'd say during school, it's definitely like students my priority, because to be honest, I don't like working at home. I find it really difficult because there's so much around me that I could be doing otherwise. So I actually tried to study in my breaks and my lunches. So as soon as I finish eating, then I go to the study room, because I try and like utilize my time at school as much as possible. And so that, because obviously after school, like I've explained, I do a lot of other things except for studying. So I don't study until I go to bed. I go on sports, go on walks, whatever. So in school, I try to spend as much of my time like doing my school work and getting everything finished. And then after school, I do like maybe past paper questions or more like reviewing.
Right. Yeah, you?
Well, I never see myself as anything specifically as a priority. I think every aspect of my life is prioritized. So, because everything has some degree of importance to me. So spending time with my friends and my family, or having some self-care time for myself so I can take a little break, and studying, as well as, spending time with my dog. Everything has some importance to me. So I try to divide it up as evenly as possible.
How about you, Elsa?
I think it kind of fluctuates, and it'll change throughout the year, and depending on what I'm doing outside school and what else I'm prioritizing at the time. I'm thinking specifically this year, at the start of the year, because I get involved in theater, and so at the start of this year I was doing a big musical, and so for a few months I was very much having to prioritize that, which didn't mean that I wasn't doing any schoolwork at all, and I remember being at the theater and doing my schoolwork there too, but it just kind of changes throughout the year, because then a few months after that, I could focus more on school. So I think it kind of changes, and that's natural too, because you were saying before, like, oh, we seem super good at that. But I mean, I think the three of us are very aware of time management, and we do our best, and we have initiative to try and do well. But for myself personally, I'll say it doesn't always work out. Like, there always are moments where you try to plan stuff, but then it just, I don't know, things happen. Like, there's always unexpected and unpredictable things. So I think we do our best, but it wouldn't be correct to say that we're perfect at it, or that, that'd be unrealistic, I think.
Every student should know it's so incredibly normal to have weeks where you're just feeling like, I don't want to do anything. Like, on my laptop, I have a sticky note, and I've got 3 or 4 assignments that I have to do on there, and every day I change the day to the day that it is now. And I'm like, you know what, I'll do it today, and I keep changing it. But I mean, it's not like I'm not doing any schoolwork. It's the fact that these are a few things that I'm just putting off, and everybody's got stuff that they put off sometimes. So the motivation fluctuates more than anything.
And yeah, I'd say like a lot of trial and error. So like I've tried so many different like routines, so many different everything, and I used to procrastinate a lot. And it's only like throughout the year, like before I used to go to my rugby training, it was quite far away. It was at the University of Malaga. And it was also quite demanding. You'd have to read Google Docs and go to training like 3 times a week. And then on the weekend you'd have a match, but could be like 3 hours away. And then I would prioritize that. And then now it's more studies, but obviously now it's more close to the exam, so it's going to be studies. But like Elsa said, it definitely fluctuates throughout the year.
And I just have a question that I thought of now. Albert, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer, but for you two, do you feel that your menstrual cycle sometimes determines your time management, and is that okay? And would you say that to other people, or is this something to be aware of? What do you think?
You're right, I can't answer that.
How about you go first? I mean, for me, all I usually want to do is sleep during the cycle. It's like I get very little motivation. I usually try to do stuff that'll comfort me, because it doesn't really go that great for me, but I think that I can pick up easily from it, because I get very motivated after I've not done some stuff for a while. I'll be like, okay, I've had a few days of break, time to actually get working, get off,
So you do kind of schedule around that?
Yeah.
I'd say during my period, I don't want to do anything. I just want to watch TV, and I definitely don't want to do any sports. But I'm very lucky because I don't really get cramps at all. Maybe like one day every 3 months I'll get it. And I don't get any, so it's not that bad. Like, I don't want to lay in bed in like the recovery position, but it's just I feel very unmotivated, definitely.
But do you ever feel kind of like a sense of guilt about that other people think that you should be managing your time differently, or do you feel pretty at peace with it and accepting of it?
Definitely guilt, because I look a lot of what other people are doing around me, and if for like I'm on my period and other people are not and they're doing like so much work, I'm like, I want to do that, but like I just can't, like I don't want to, like I have no motivation.
I think it's the opposite for me. I feel very at peace. I'm like, okay, you know what, I feel justified in the time that I spend off and get to, you know, just chill from everything else that I have to do in school or in my entire life, anything. And then when I get back from it, I think it's all around positive for me. I have horrible cramps. You have a great life in that way. But after those few days are over, I'm just I'm fine. Yeah.
Cool. That's interesting.
And you?
Okay. I had a question about, well, you kind of already spoke about this, so how you guys go around finding that balance, but I was wondering too, do you guys use what's known as a reward system ever, where you kind of reward your work with maybe some free time or something in your personal life that you're looking forward to?
I'd say my breaks are my rewards, and then whatever I do on that is my choice. But on a Friday, I feel like a Friday's my reward, because I usually, like after school, like I'll go home and then I'll go back out again on a Friday afternoon, and that's kind of like what I've been working towards during the weeks. And on the weekend I like to do some schoolwork, because I don't like having a full day doing nothing. It makes me feel very unproductive. But on a Friday I feel like is like, so I kind of, not every day after every single study like block I give myself a reward, but it's kind of like maybe like throughout the week, then I'll work as hard as I can, and then it's kind of like a big reward at the end of the week, which is how I do it.
This might sound a bit silly, but since year 7, I was always the person that took those colorful notes and everything and had all the markers. And I think that my initial reward once I'm done studying is seeing those notes, and because it makes me feel so productive. And just recently I used that same kind of colorful notes technique to get into the university that I wanted to go to, you know, and it was like it makes me very happy to take notes like that. And I think that itself is a reward. And then after that I go to my sister's room, I like talk to her. I think that's a lot more rewarding as well.
Nice. And do you guys think that it's ever worth sacrificing parts of your personal life to put in a lot more effort into your school? I don't mean just like to find the balance, but I mean way more on the school side, and maybe just for a certain period of time, or do you think that's never okay?
For a certain period of time, it's okay. Sorry,
I agree, for a certain period of time, it's okay.
Yeah.
Especially like now, the weeks leading up to it. So obviously, we already finished very early. Like I finished on the 17th of May. So it's kind of like I already have like an extra month off from everyone else. So it's kind of like, okay, it's only like 4 weeks that I have to go hard, and then I have like so much time to do whatever I want and not worry about anything. So I feel like it's temporary, and you have to remember it's temporary, and then so I think it's fine just to do it temporarily.
Yeah, but you still need a little bit of the personal life to keep up the motivation, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think if I completely burn myself out during that period that, you know, I'm focusing just on school, my motivation is going to be really hard to get up, because I'll be like, wow, I remember the feeling that it was like last time I put my mind all into academics, and then I wouldn't want to do it anymore because it was horrible, you know.
And it can become counterproductive too, right?
Yeah.
Like the work that you're doing is just not...
The more I try to work, the more it's just like falling out the other side of my brain. I'm like, oh, I can't do this right now.
Yeah,
you need the breaks in between.
Yeah. And Albert, what do you remember from when you were at school? Do you relate to what we're saying or not so much?
Not at all. I was really different. To be honest, I can't really remember. I only took one A-level because I was doing the American High School Diploma.
Is that the GED?
No, that's just the SATs back in the day.
Ah, okay.
So it was very different. And to be honest, there was nothing specific. I only wanted to study one thing, that was music, modern music. And at that time there was no modern music, just jazz. I hated jazz. I love jazz now, but I used to hate it then. So my motivation was minimal. I wasn't a bad student, but basically my report cards from the moment I had a report card was could do better. Lovely boy could do better. Lovely boy could do better. And it's true. So I had to really work hard to motivate myself to study. And that was before the A-level. So my GCSEs basically. And I found it really hard. I didn't have much parental guidance either, not because my parents didn't care, but because at that time parents just said you go to school and do your thing. And the time I did get parental guidance, I didn't like it, because it was basically saying you gotta study. I didn't like hearing that. So it was very different. So I really do admire you guys, the way you're so proactive in your approach to your study, and I like to think that we're doing something towards that. We as in your educators, but the fact that you are fully consequent of the fact that it's your own time, you have to manage it yourself, and you have to find your own priorities within that, and it looks like you're doing a good job. I really admire that. We weren't like that. At least I wasn't.
I think on that topic, if any GCSE students are seeing this and they have to select their A-levels, pick subjects that you 100% are sure that you are passionate about, that you would like and enjoy. Because for me, specifically psychology, I love that subject so much, and we have a lot of work. Like there's a huge workload, and if you don't want to go into that field, don't take the subject because it's insanely demanding. But I enjoy every lesson of it, and I love participating because it's like I could never get sick of the subject, and I think that you should make sure that that's the kind of subject you choose.
Is that what you want to do when you...
Psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's almost easier to find that balance, because when you're doing schoolwork that you enjoy that much, it feels more like a personal endeavor almost. Yeah. So it's easier to keep yourself satisfied in that sense too.
What would you guys say is your hardest subject to study, like you keep putting off and you just don't want to?
Economics. I can't deal with it. I'm not sure. I don't even know why. It's just I can never wrap my head around it, and because of that, I think I procrastinate actually going through and trying to understand it. I don't know. I'm just I'm gonna have to get through somehow.
I would say for me it's always drama. Drama is always the toughest, most challenging in that sense. It's just because when it's a whole creative process. Like a lot of our theory and of our writing components are creative processes basically that we have to go through in order to design a concept for a play or something like that. And so there are these huge projects that can be really intimidating, and so sometimes getting back into it, like once you're in it and if you're really into it and you've got ideas and you feel inspired, great. But if you're starting from scratch, that can be really hard and easy to put off for sure.
Mine's definitely English literature, because it's a lot different from my other subjects like economics, business and French, where the past papers are always the same, and it's really easy to do like past papers, and I like having like a structure. But English lit is just like the question could be anything. Obviously the essay like structure is the same, but I find writing really like, I keep putting off like doing practice paragraphs and practice essays when I know I need to, because that's time, and like probably English lit in general is one of my like worst things, and I need to work on it, but I just can't. It's so difficult.
I agree. I think after drama I'd say the same with English lit. I think it's always these subjects where you're not handed the information in a textbook, like for science or for business or something like that, but you basically are having to create your own content to learn, like in English lit and drama, and so that just adds another level of challengingness.
But I love the subject, like I love the lessons, they're really interesting. I participate a lot, but then when it comes to the essay writing, I just, because it's not like any other ones where it's like there's a structure and like, okay, 5 minutes on one question, yay, done, next. It's like you spend an hour on one question and your wrist hurts and it's hard and your brain's tired and it's really difficult.
Yeah. And on the topic of sometimes it being difficult to find the motivation to keep that balance there, do you guys think that the education system as a whole has any flaws that make it harder for us to find that balance? And Albert, you as a father, as a parent, could also contribute if you'd like to.
Well, you guys answer first, then I'll go.
You will.
Well, I think that the A-level system is actually pretty nice, because we get 2 separate years and we get examined on everything that we learn in that year at the end of it. As opposed to GCSEs where it's over 2 years. So I think that the way that it's distributed is quite nice, and it's also reflective of what it's like in university, because I was looking at my course and it goes the same way that the A-levels were. Like it's like a cumulative of everything that you did, and it's end of year exams. So I think in that sense it's preparatory, and it's also pretty nice during it.
I much prefer the international A-level system as well as international national GCSE, but I prefer the international ways they do it, because in my old school was national because it was in England, and all my friends are now like coming to the end of year 12 and they have no exams, no anything, because all their things at the end of year 13. And I would, even though I'm stressed now and I'm like, I wish I didn't have exams, but I'm so happy they're at the end of year 12 and not all at the end of year 13. And same for GCSE here, it's over 2 years. We started our GCSE in year 9, So we chose our options in year 8, and then year 9, 10 and 11 we were learning the stuff, and then you learnt it then. You did it all at the end of year 11. So then it was kind of difficult doing the things in year 11 you did in year 9. Then you look at your notes and you're like, that's not even legible. Like I can't even read that. What am I doing? Yeah, so this system that we're in now is a lot better than I'd say even the national one. But I agree that the A-level was pretty nice compared to like international baccalaureate and stuff.
And I agree with what Hiya was saying. I mean, it's at the end of the year, so you have time throughout the year. You're not constantly being assessed, which comes with its own disadvantages, but also at the same time, it does give you that freedom and flexibility to explore the balances you wish throughout the year. Like I was saying before, at the start of the year, I was focusing more on something outside of school, but then at other times I can focus more on school, and it's kind of up to you. Yeah. What do you think, Albert?
As a parent, I don't really have an opinion. You guys get given your. I'm more worried about the pressure that a teenager can suffer with all these exams, because as I'm not going to say as an adult, you guys are adults as well, but as a more experienced person, I can see that this is only the beginning of a huge journey for you guys, and the stress that you guys can go through as students is nothing compared to the stress that you might go through in other stages of life, right? Hopefully this is the biggest stress you have right now. Maybe you don't, hopefully there's no other personal parts of your life that are causing you stress. And it worries me because it's a huge amount of stress that in the long run is going to be diffused with life, right? And you look back at it and think like, ooh, why was I so stressed? But you are really stressed. And a lot of that is us, your educators put that stress on you. We put the emphasis on going to university because that's what we do. Right here at Sunnyview School, we pride ourselves in academic excellence, and we push it your way. And we put that stress on you a little bit on purpose. It doesn't have to be so stressful, right? That's my point of view. And as a parent, I see Gabe, I see my son. He's pretty chill, but I can see that he's worried. And my thought is, take it easy, man. It's no big deal, right? Even if you don't go to university and we fail you as educators, there's other ways in life, and you will find your way. I can't always say that because it is my job as a parent to say, this is your job. You are a student, and you have to be able to graduate and go to university because this is what you do most of your day. So, as a parent, I have to say, and I've told them, your job is to be a student. So make the most of it and do your best. That's all we can ask of you guys, is to do your best and maybe push it a little bit more, right? But that causes a lot of stress on you, and sometimes I worry about that as a parent and as a person that works here at school, because some of you suffer a lot. It shouldn't be like that. That's my little 2 cents worth.
I think I've got a pretty similar take because I don't necessarily get stressed for my exams because I know that it's all going to be fine. It's all going to go great in the end. And I was pretty stressed after my mock grades, but then after that, I think I've built it up now. And I was telling Elsa about this earlier, but I think the main thing that I'm going to see when I'm in university is not looking back at how my exams went in A-levels. It's going to be looking at how I spent my time with my friends that I made over the 6 years that I've been here. And I think that I don't want that to be overcoated by the stress from school. I think I'm a pretty happy person in general. And even my parents force that onto me. Like, they say that your grade doesn't matter. The only 100% that you need is the effort that you put into it. And anything after that is completely, it doesn't matter because you did your best. And that's all you can give.
I totally agree with that. Great point of view there.
I'm really grateful my parents don't push grades upon me, and they come up in my room, make sure I'm studying. They're kind of well, we can see you're studying really hard, and we can see you're doing your best, and and that's all we can ask from you. And they're not the type of parents that will force good grades on me and remind me to study, and if I get a bad grade, they'll scold me. It's kind of just I really like the freedom they give me, but also they also give support to get good grades, and they don't care, and they do care, but
Yeah, no, I have a similar experience with my parents. They're pretty chill. I don't think they usually come to me and tell me I need to study more. I think, if anything, also from what I hear you guys saying, it seems like our parents are encouraging us to find the balance and not go too hard with all the school stuff. Do you think that that's more the case now than when you were a kid, Albert?
Yeah, Parents care much more now than our parents used to care. And my parents were really, really caring people. I mean, my parents loved us to bits, and they were always, they were caring parents. But when it came to study, they're separated. They had full confidence on the educators, and say if I got a detention, they wouldn't even question it. They wouldn't call the school to say, why did my son get a detention? They said, you did something wrong, live with it, right? Same came when it came to studying. They didn't really care what the content of my or GCSEs, A levels, SATs, or whatever. They were worried whether I wanted to study further or not, but they didn't. All that they left to us and to our educators, which was good and bad. It's got good and bad. I prefer it the modern way, but sometimes parents care a little bit too much. I have to say, parents, chill. Your children do know what they're doing, and their educators also know what they're doing. So we have to trust this a little bit too.
Yeah. Another lesson, I guess, not just in school but also in life that I got from my parents was that you should always be celebratory for even like the smallest kind of accomplishments. Yeah. Like I'll get a nice grade on a class test or something, and they're like, all right, cool, pop open the wine bottle. Or it's like not that, sorry.
That's cool.
Or we'll go to my favorite restaurant or something. It's like, even the smallest things should be celebrated, because that motivates you so much more to get the bigger achievements. I think that helps a lot. It's helped me a lot.
I'd say one of the reasons the parent generation now is a lot more chill, I think it's because nowadays it's not so much pressure. Like if you don't go to university, you're going to fail in life. It's kind of like now there are other methods that there's a lot more like online jobs, and there's a lot more opportunities you can do outside of just going to university and getting like an office job. There's so much you can do, and you don't necessarily have to go to university and do this and do that. And there's not a specific path you have to follow, where I feel like that's what parents in the past generation thought, and now it's a lot more, this isn't everything. It'll be fine.
And why do you guys feel it's changed in that way?
I think it's just advancement of the human race. Like especially in technology, there's a lot more like opportunities now, and a lot more job opportunities, and a lot more like digital nomads who can go everywhere. And I think it's just the way the world is changing, I guess.
Yeah.
I think Emily has a point there, but my point of view is slightly different. I think you're totally right, and I think what's happened is that technology, which ironically is something that my generation created, has gone beyond anything that we could ever think. And a lot of parents don't understand that technology. They don't understand the tools that you have to be able to work. They don't really understand that, although a lot of us work with Teams and we do Zoom meetings and all that. That's pretty much the extent of it. We don't really know what it means to be a digital nomad. Whereas you guys are born with it, and that's pretty scary for our parents. So very often our reaction isn't to embrace all that, but to go a little bit against it. And of course you guys feel that hostility, and you might feel that little step away from the way it used to be. And I think that's changed a lot. I see that a lot in a lot of parents. They might blame the school, or they might blame technology for something when it has nothing to do with technology. It's just human relations that are just gone wrong through technology, maybe, but because of the people don't understand that technology, or they're not willing to go with the fact that you guys are growing up with this technology, whereas we're not, and that creates a little divide, I think, anyway. I'm not sure if
so you think that the advancements of technology have led to parents putting less pressure on their kids? Oops, sorry. Or what did you mean by that?
I think it's led to the parents not knowing where to apply the pressure and where to let it go. It's a scary thing, a parent these days, unless they have 110% trust on their child when their child is, or when they're sitting in the room studying with their door closed, the parent really doesn't know if they're sitting there with a computer playing, chatting, or really studying. And that for a parent is really scary, because they're thinking, but hang on a minute, I trust my child. Why am I having these doubts? Right? And because the world has put the doubt in our minds, saying, you shouldn't trust your child because they're, they might be getting, whatever. Anything could be happening. So it's scary for a parent. And then they have to have that conversation with the child. And the son or daughter says, well, but that does that mean you don't trust me? And we have to say, well, we do trust you. We just need you to be aware of what. And the parent can't explain it because the parent doesn't understand it. So it's I'm not sure if it answers your question, but it's...
No, but I get you. It's changed the dynamic.
It changed the dynamic,
parents
yeah,
and
exactly.
children, and the types of liberties and
exactly. And I think we're looking too much into it. Ultimately, it's just parents and children, just like it always was, human relations. And all you have to do is trust trust your parents and trust your children. Pure and simple. If that trust is there, it'll be just the same as usual.
Very true. I think we're coming somewhat towards the
pretty
end.
much, yeah.
Yeah. I have a question. Sort of, it's like a chain of questions, and I want you guys to answer. So my idea is for you guys to give just anything that comes to mind, like a couple of top tips, since our focus of the podcast was finding that personal life and work-life balance. Just if there's any tips that you guys, specifically would like to give our listeners. And I was thinking we could maybe do Emily to, people younger than you or people in your year, Hiya to Emily based, since you're in year 13, so from your perspective, and then Albert to Hiya, or like to all of us, just from your kind of older generation perspective.
All right, sounds good.
More experienced and wise.
How about you, Elsa? You're not taking part in this?
Well, I'm just going to listen.
So to the younger years, I would say if you're worried about A-level, don't be. So for me, I did not know how to study in year 11 because, like I said, I came from a very bad school where most of my revision from a 3-year course was done either the week or the night before, which is terrible. I was a good student throughout the years, so I obviously I'm here, so I did fine. But I would recommend if you don't know how to study, or you're worried or you're scared, don't be anxious, and it's just trial and error, to be honest. All year I've just written up new routines and I've just not followed them, and then I felt really bad, and then I'm everyone else seems to have their life together, and then Alison would come in and be okay, who's got their study timetable, and then people would put their hand up and I'm oh my god, I have, but I'm not following it and I can't do it. It's just it's normal, and just don't compare yourself to others around you that seem like they've got everything figured out, because they probably don't. This might be their 5th study timetable, or could be freestyling it, and that's one. So just it's normal if you feel like you're not doing enough or other people are doing more than you, and just try not to compare yourself, and you'll just figure it out as you go along, basically.
I think all that applies to the year 13 student advice as well, but also this worked for me. I'm not sure how it would be for other people because I haven't seen other people do it, but start your university research as early as possible, even now if you could, but I don't mean looking into the exact courses and starting to apply, because you can't do that yet, but look into where you want to go and figure out the smaller details so that it becomes easier when you actually come to it. You're oh, I like this that I saw before. And I had a very easy university application process. I think I was enjoying it. It was really simple. I think especially with the Netherlands, it's a really simple process because you only need a CV. You don't need to write many essays. So I think start earlier on any kind of duty that you have, and also find things that you need to show up to. I think that brings my motivation up a lot, because 2 days of the week I have to tutor a kid in year 5, and I think having to show up to that makes me work around my schedule and time my things as well. And so having something that puts you into a routine apart from going to school from 9 to 4 helps a lot.
I have a question for the older year, and I know this can go for other year 12s because I've heard them be how do they do it? So I know you guys both did very well at the end of year 12 because I've heard from my teachers, I've heard from Mr. Jimenez and I've heard from Mr. McKean about both of you, and just how did you guys study? What was your top tip of just studying past papers, flashcards? What did you use?
If you heard from Mr. Jimenez, past papers really saved my economics exam. I think that for subjects such as sciences or PPLE kind of subjects, I think it's way easier to look at past papers because it's so specific to the mark scheme. They always repeat the questions. So I think for now, for A-levels, that's a good idea, but when you go into, university and stuff, you can't do that. Yeah. So you need to work on your own. But
it really depends on each subject, I think. I completely agree. For biology, for example, when I go in and look at my grades, right, the first paper I took, it went, so first, second, and third, it went up in percentages of how much I got. And that was because after the first one, I realized I had not done enough past papers, and I was okay, let's do them all if we can. And so I tried to do as many as I could, and for the third one I did even more. And so you can see the evidence of how much that helps. So for something like biology, the sciences, the STEM, the business, for example, economics, I think probably it works too.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then other things like English Lit, which I know you also take, you really have to think about what the exam wants from you and then focus your studying in that sense. I think Lit can be very intimidating in that sense and overwhelming because there's so much that you could potentially try to study. But if you, for example, if you have a novel or a play and you identify the key themes, you basically make notes in the structure of paragraphs that you could use in essays. It's about kind of being smart and thinking and strategic, thinking what do they want from me, and then that's exactly what I'm going to study. And so it can actually become simpler. You can actually end up having to study less content than you would for a science if you were able to do that. And lots of practice too, because then you'll start doing essays and you'll start realizing that certain paragraphs you can just reuse again and again, and they'll always work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There you go. You got advice. Well, my only advice is general advice. I'm not an educator. I'm not a student anymore. Is just get to know yourself so that you can set clear objectives that will be realistic and not too much. And especially trust your teachers. Trust the educators that will guide you through your subject. And then you'll be golden. You'll be all right. And just don't get stressed out.
Yeah.
All right, so I think this is the end. I think we've been here for a while. I have bad news. The podcast has been going on for 45 minutes. However, this recording only says it's 26 minutes long. So we only have part of the video for this podcast. I only just realized before. I have no idea what happened. So we have the little tiny camera that we'll be recording. But anyway, we'll do our best.
Yeah.
You can hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ladies, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for
us.
Emily for the first time. So it's great to have you around. Hopefully next year you'll be taking over this
Yeah.
I hope
podcast.
so.
I'm excited to watch the year 12s next year.
Sitting in my dorm and just looking at the sunny view.
Yeah.
And as usual, behind me is Jess, our technical bit. We're missing Erica today. She's not manning the controls because it's Wednesday. She had a class. But we do miss her. I missed her. We had a few boo-boos here and there. But anyway, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for listening. If you are listening, let's get the year 11s to listen to all this. I think it'll be great for them.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time. I think we only have 1 or 2 podcasts left for this school year. So let's make the most of it. And if we don't see you, good luck with your exams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.